Hey guys, tonight we slip behind the stone walls of a Roman ludus, one of those brutal but oddly disciplined training schools where gladiators were forged like weapons. The air is thick with sweat, sand, and the low groans of half-awake men rolling off straw-filled mattresses. You blink into the haze of early morning light filtering through iron-barred windows, the scent of olive oil and damp leather curling around your senses. Your back aches, your calves cramp. But there's no time for softness. Today, like every day, is another rehearsal for death. In truth, you probably won't survive this. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And let me know in the comments, where are you listening from and what time is it right now? Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You sit up slowly, joints popping, muscles stiff from yesterday's drills. Around you, others groan awake, some cough, some mutter prayers. One snores so violently it shakes the thin wooden wall beside you. Welcome to the dormitory of a ludus, the barracks where Rome's most expendable warriors sleep and rise again. The straw mattress beneath you has long lost its fluff. It smells faintly of mildew and blood, someone else's, not yours, probably. Your feet touch the cold stone floor. Sand coats your soles, gritty and ever-present. Everything in this place smells like old iron, sun-baked leather, and uncertainty. You reach for your tunic, a simple woolen garment, rough against your skin. No luxury here, no pillow menus, just the bare minimum to keep you alive and fight ready. Around you are men from every corner of the empire. A Numidian who once trained horses, a Gaul who used to cut wood, a scribe from Antioch who swears he was falsely condemned. Most were slaves, some were criminals, and a rare few volunteered octorati, they're called. They signed away their freedom for fame, for food, or, in a few confusing cases, for the sheer thrill of it. Historians still argue whether octorati were viewed as brave or foolish, perhaps both. You rub your temples. The wooden beam above your head creaks as someone stomps past. There's no sleeping in. A bell clangs, an old bronze thing shaped like a dolphin, mounted near the courtyard. Breakfast first, then training. You shuffle with the others into the corridor, passing the faded frescoes that once showed heroic battles. Now they're chipped, faded, and a bit too on the nose. One shows a lion eating a man's arm, charming. You step outside, blinking into the Roman Sunday. The yard is already alive with noise. Wooden swords slamming against shields, trainers barking orders, the dull thud of men hitting sand. You smell the faint tang of sweat and oil wafting from the practice dummies, humanoid logs with leather arms, wrapped so tightly they look like mummified wrestlers. A few unlucky recruits are already sparring. One stumbles backward and gets a slap across the head, not from his opponent, but from a doctor, a retired gladiator turned instructor. You'll meet him soon. He doesn't like your face. But for now, you join the line near the mess table. Breakfast is predictable. Barley, porridge, olives, and water. No wine, no meat, not yet. The diet of a gladiator was surprisingly vegetarian, by design. Historians still debate whether this was for religious reasons, economic constraints, or because carbs helped them bulk up like ancient bodybuilders. You shovel the food in, chewing while staring at the splintered wood of the table. Someone says a joke about your opponent's mother. You nod and chuckle, even if you don't quite get it. You notice something. Nobody here eats fast. Despite the urgency of the day, there's a stillness to breakfast, like the moment before a storm. Eyes down, hands steady. It's the only time of day when no one's getting punched. Everyone savors the silence, because soon it'll be drowned out by grunts, sand, and screams. The spoon clinks against your bowl. You look up. The doctor is watching. He jerks his chin toward the training yard. Time to earn your next breath. You step into the yard with your stomach just barely settled, the morning sun already biting down on your skin. The sand beneath your feet feels warm. Despite the early hour, it holds the heat from 1,000 footsteps, spilled sweat, and more than a few quiet tears. You're not the only one hesitating at the edge of the training ground. A few new recruits shuffle forward, eyes darting, unsure if they're about to be molded into warriors or mulch. Your instructor, your doctor, is already there. A hulking figure with a nose that's been broken so many times it looks like a winding road map of regret. His voice rasps like gravel in a wine jug. He doesn't shout. He doesn't need to. One glare from him is enough to freeze the bravest man mid-step. You line up with the others, standing stiff as reeds before the wind. Today's warm-up is deceptively cruel. You run laps around the yard, barefoot, holding a wooden shield over your head. Not a featherlight mock-up either. This thing feels like it was carved from a shipwreck. Every lap grinds grit into your heels. The sun climbs higher. By the time you're halfway through, your arms burn like torches, and your legs wobble with every step. The doctori watches, arms folded. Occasionally, he shouts a name and tosses a practice sword toward the unfortunate soul. When it's your turn, the blade lands at your feet with a puff of dust. It's heavier than it looks. The Romans called it a rudis, a wooden training sword. To you, it feels like a tree trunk glued to a hilt. You're paired up with another trainee, not quite friend, not quite foe. You circle each other, knees bent, backs hunched like beasts preparing to pounce. There's no grace in the first strike, only panic and clumsiness. Wood thwacks against wood. You miss, he grunts. You both stumble. It's like watching two exhausted goats butt heads in slow motion. The doctor barks corrections. Too high. Shield closer. You call that a lunge or a drunk shuffle. His words are cutting, but not cruel. There's precision behind them. Every insult hides instruction, every grunt of disapproval a lesson. He's trying to keep you alive, whether you deserve it or not. Across the yard, others practice on the palace, a tall wooden post used for solo drills. They swing again and again, carving the air with each stroke, shoulders tense, backs slick with sweat. The repetition is hypnotic. Even the birds overhead seem to pause their chirping to watch the dance of muscle and motion below. Historians still argue whether gladiator training was more about endurance or perfection, but judging by how your arms feel, it's safe to say, probably both. The strangest thing? You begin to enjoy it, the rhythm of it, the crack of your blade against your opponent's shield. The moment you parry just right and hear the doctori mutter a rare, almost grudging "not bad," the pain dulls into background noise. You lose yourself in the motion. It's like swimming in sand, pointless, exhausting, and yet oddly meditative. A few yards away, a man takes a blow to the ribs and goes down. Not with drama, just a quiet collapse like a folding chair. He curls inward, wheezing. The doctor steps over, checks his breath, and waves in two assistants. They drag him off like a sack of turnips. No one says a word. You simply shift your weight and resume your stance. Because you can't stop. If you stop, you break. If you break, you're no use in the arena. You are not a man. You are an asset. A potential show. A possible payday for the lanista, the gladiator school owner who rarely appears but always knows your worth down to the denarius. That bruise on your shoulder, it's an investment. That cut on your shin, a future crowd pleaser. At one point, a trumpet blares somewhere beyond the walls. A false alarm, just a drill for a nearby unit of legionaries, but your heart leaps anyway. For a split second, you wonder, is today the day I fight for real? It isn't. Not yet. But it's coming. So you grip the rudis tighter, you brace your shield higher, and when your partner comes at you again with a sloppy overhead swing, you sidestep not because you're nimble, but because you're learning. The doctore sees it. He grunts, half approval, half surprise. You might not be good yet, but you're not useless anymore. The sun creeps higher over the stone walls, turning the training yard into a clay oven. Sweat beads along your neck, soaking into your tunic until it clings like seaweed. Every breath comes with a hint of dust. Your arms ache from repetition, but the real test now begins. The doctores are assembling small groups near the shaded archway, assigning each one a master. Your group's doctor is a wiry man with a crooked grin and one eye that never quite looks where you expect. His name is Rufus, though no one dares call him anything but Sir. He fought 27 times in the arena, lost twice. The first time, he nearly died. The second time, he let the other man live. He never talks about that. You suspect he regrets it. He begins your lesson not with a demonstration, but with a question. What's your weapon? You hesitate. You're holding a wooden sword, but that's not the point. One man beside you mumbles, "My shield?" Another guesses, "My strength." Rufus snorts. "Your weapon," he says slowly, "is your habit. You win by doing the right thing so many times, your body forgets how to do it wrong." It's oddly profound for a man who probably bathed in goat's blood last week. He teaches not just how to strike, but how to stand, how to breathe, how to listen. Hear the rhythm, he says, tapping his foot against the sand. Even death has a beat. You drill relentlessly. One motion, over and over, thrust, parry, retreat. Again, again. Rufus circles you like a wolf with a clipboard. When you drop your elbow, he smacks you with a cane. When you correct it, he moves on without a word. Silence, in this place, is a compliment. He stops you halfway through a sequence and gestures to your stance. Too rigid, he says. You'll shatter like marble, be like willow, yield and snap back. Then he nods toward another fighter, a stocky Thracian with a crooked nose and a scar that splits one eyebrow. See him? That's Spiculus. He's fought 6 times, never been touched. Why? You glance at the man, whose movements are fluid, almost lazy. Because he's fast? Rufus shakes his head. Because he knows when not to move. There's a moment of silence as that settles in. Gladiator fights aren't all blood and flailing. They're theater. They're chess matches with blades. Historians still debate whether real matches were more sport or spectacle, but the doctores train you for both. You learn to strike precisely, to fall convincingly, and even to scream at just the right moment for maximum applause. Because the audience isn't just watching, they're judging. You try out a new move. Rufus demonstrates a sidestep pivot followed by a feint. You trip on your own foot, land hard, sand in your teeth. Great. The others chuckle, but Rufus helps you up. Better now than with a trident in your ribs, he says, not unkindly. Later, he has you pair off again. This time, no full sparring, just reaction drills. You raise your shield, your opponent slaps it, you shift, he circles. You feel tension build like a bowstring behind your spine. One wrong twitch and you'll eat dust again. But something's changed. You're not panicking this time. You're reading him, like a book. A sweaty, angry book. Even Rufus nods. Once. At midday, the bell rings again. Time for water. You retreat under the shade near the cistern. A slave hands out ladles of cool water. It tastes of tin and moss, but it's heaven in liquid form. You gulp greedily, then splash your face. Your reflection stares back at you tired, sunburnt, but focused. Someone beside you groans. I thought this would be easier. You glance over. A young man from Hispania, barely 18, his hand still shaking from the wooden blade. You volunteered? You ask. He nods. Needed coin for my family. You don't have the heart to tell him he may not live long enough to send it home. But then again, maybe he will. A little later, you're back in the yard, this time for group formations. It's strange gladiators fight solo in the arena, but here, you train side by side, shields raised in a wall. Blades peeking through gaps. Not for teamwork, Rufus explains, for timing. You learn when to act, when to wait, like breathing with 10 lungs. He's right. When the group moves together, it feels like a machine. When it doesn't, it feels like a tavern brawl. You swing, you block, you stagger. Somewhere in the chaos, a rhythm appears. Not harmony, this isn't music, but choreography. Brutal, sweaty ballet. The sun begins to descend, the drills slow. Rufus dismisses you with a grunt. Good work, he says, which from him is like a love poem. Your arms are noodles, your legs hum like tuning forks, but your mind is sharp, awake. For the first time you understand. Training isn't just about surviving the arena. It's about transforming yourself into something worthy of applause, of fear, of legend, even if you never make it out alive. By now, the yard smells like roasted sand and regret. You can't tell if it's your tunic that stinks, or just your soul slowly marinating in olive oil and bruises. But there's no time to wallow because next up is everyone's favorite part of the day, the midday meal. You shuffle to the open-air dining hall, really just a covered stretch of stone benches and rough wooden tables. A cook who may have once fought in the arena but now battles pots with the same intensity slops food into bowls with the grace of a man trying not to care. Today's fare? Barley mash again, this time with a hint of garum, the beloved Roman fermented fish sauce. It smells like something that went on holiday and never returned. Still, you eat it, and you eat it fast, because you're starving, and because it turns out that feeding a gladiator isn't just about keeping him alive, it's about engineering him. Historians today still marvel at the so-called hordiari, or barley men, as Roman gladiators were nicknamed due to their mostly vegetarian diets. It wasn't some ancient fad, it was calculated. Carbs packed in the pounds, A gladiator needed padding, not flab, but dense muscle and enough flesh to soak up minor wounds without hitting bone. You wash it down with tepid water, and if you're lucky, maybe a touch of watered-down wine. No one here drinks to forget. Not during training, not unless they want to lose a limb. There's no feast of roasted boar or trays of grapes like in the frescoes the patricians love. Just fuel. Unexciting, repetitive, strangely scientific fuel. But here's the curious part. There's a method to the monotony. The cook, who answers only to Milo, insists on adding strange extras to the meals. Crushed bone ash, herbs with names you can't pronounce. One day, you spot something that looks suspiciously like pulverized oyster shell. Calcium, Milo grunts when asked. Keeps your bones from shattering like amphorae. Some say the food is laced with aphrodisiacs. Others swear it's dulling your wits on purpose. Historians still argue whether the diets were meant to enhance performance or simply keep gladiators docile between fights. Either way, it's working. You feel both stronger and slightly more zombie-like each day. Someone beside you asks if you miss bread. You shrug. You barely remember what bread tastes like. After lunch comes the part that makes you question every life choice you've ever made. Endurance drills. Not just running, but crawling, leaping, and balancing with weapons on your back while a doctor shouts creatively offensive insults in 3 languages. You crawl under beams, climb up poles greased with pig fat, and then sprint in circles with your shield strapped backwards for added torment. At one point, you hear your name. The doctore motions you toward a different group. It's time to test weapon preferences. You're led to a shaded area where a variety of weapons are laid out like a butcher's sampler platter. Gladii, tridents, curved psycha blades, nets, daggers, spears. Each one gleams, some polished to reflect the sun, others dulled with notches and stains of 100 practices. You reach for the gladius first, the classic short Roman sword, built for stabbing in tight quarters. Heavy, solid, predictable. It feels right. But then your fingers brush the shaft of a trident. Unbalanced, exotic, kind of flashy really. You picture yourself in the arena, jabbing like Poseidon, net in the other hand. Ridiculous and yet strangely satisfying. A doctor hands you a curved blade and watches how you hold it. Thracian, he says flatly. Good wrists. You didn't know that was a compliment. He makes a note on a wax tablet. Somewhere in the ludus ledger, you're being sorted, slotted, typecast like an actor, because every gladiator has a role to play. Retiarius net and trident, little armor, high agility. Murmillo heavily armored, fish-shaped crest on the helmet, tower shield, and gladius. Thraix curved sword, small shield, flashy and nimble. Secuta, hoplomachus, bestiarius. The list goes on, like casting a drama where every role ends in blood. You swing the blade, the balance is decent. You like the weight, the doctore watches. We'll try the psycha again tomorrow, he says, as if selecting wine for dinner. By now your tunic is stiff with sweat and sand. Your hands are red from gripping too tightly. You didn't know training for death required so much life. But it does. And as you return your borrowed weapon to the rack, a strange thought settles over you. Maybe you're starting to become what they're shaping. Not just a man with a blade, but a performer. A symbol, an offering. Back in the yard, the sun is a dull orange smudge against the horizon. Shadows stretch long across the sand, and the heat finally begins to loosen its grip on your skin. But there's no rest, not yet. This is when training takes a new form, mock battles. You and the others are herded toward the circular palaestra, a miniature arena built within the ludus for practice fights. It's surrounded by a low wall, not for protection, but to remind you that the real thing is higher, louder, and filled with people baying for blood. Right now, your audience consists of tired men with aching joints, leaning on posts with half-lidded eyes. 2 at a time, fighters are called into the ring. You stand beside a pile of practice weapons, dull, notched, and unforgiving in their own way. A wooden gladius is handed to you. The weight is familiar now. Your name is barked. Time to step in. Your opponent is a broad-shouldered man with a crooked lip and arms like tree trunks. You've seen him before. He doesn't smile. He's already lost a tooth in training. And rumor has it he once knocked someone out during a mock fight, just for calling him friend. The bell rings a small, shrill clang. You raise your shield. He charges. It's clumsy at first. You lurch, block, stagger. The sand slips under your feet. Your wooden blades meet with a dull clack. like angry firewood. You try to remember Rufus's lessons. Be fluid, be patient. But when a man swings at your head with enough force to rattle your spine, elegance is a luxury. You land a hit on his shoulder, soft, respectful, controlled. He growls and responds with a shove that nearly knocks you flat. You both circle again, breathing hard. This is where things blur. Technique dissolves. Instinct takes over. Then, something shifts. Your next move just a fraction faster. Your shield blocks without thought. Your sword jabs and he flinches. You're not better than him, but you're learning faster. He knows it too. His jaw tightens. He rushes again, but this time, you sidestep, sweep his leg, and send him sprawling into the dust. The crowd of trainees lets out a low ooh, and someone claps once, just once, quickly, like they didn't mean to. You offer him a hand up. He hesitates, then takes it. Respect, earned the old-fashioned way, through bruises. Mock battles aren't just about skill, they're about control. The goal isn't to win, it's to impress the doctores watching from the shadows, the lanista peering from the balcony, calculating odds and potential profits. If you swing too wild, they'll call you a liability. If you flinch too often, they'll call you a ghost. Some days, mock battles end with both fighters limping off with grins. Other days, someone doesn't get up. The weapons may be blunt, but the pride isn't. One man snapped his wrist last week. Another cracked a rib and tried to hide it. He couldn't finish his drills the next day. They sent him to the medicus, and he hasn't come back. Historians still argue whether these mock battles were truly practice or subtle selection processes. Some say they were meant to prepare, others say they were meant to weed out the weak. Either way, you're still here. Later, as dusk spreads its blue veil over the sky, you're gathered in small groups for review. The doctores don't offer compliments, just comments. Too slow. Better balance. Don't turn your back unless you're tired of living. You accept each word like coins dropped into a beggar's bowl. Even criticism is nourishment in this place. Then, one of them, a stooped man with a bronze brooch shaped like a lion's head, approaches you. He asks your name. You give it. Stay after the others leave, he says. You do. The rest of the trainees shuffle back toward the dorms, some limping, some laughing. You remain behind, heart thudding like distant war drums. The man hands you a different practice weapon, a weighted gladius, longer, heavier than your usual one. Try a few swings, he says. You do. It feels awkward at first, then natural. He watches. You're a bit of everything, he mutters. Not heavy like a mormillo, not quick like a retiarius, but you think, I can use that. You don't respond. You're not sure what to say. Tomorrow, he continues, you'll spar against two men, alone. You stare. They won't go easy. Neither should you. No explanation, no reason given, just a nod, and he walks away. You stand there in the darkening yard, the weight of the new blade pulling slightly at your wrist. Somewhere in the distance, a dog barks. Somewhere closer, someone coughs. You're alone now. But not afraid. Not exactly. You don't sleep much that night. The dormitory is quiet, but your mind isn't. Around you, bodies shift on creaky cots. Someone snores like a wounded ox. Another man mutters in his sleep, something about his mother's kitchen. It's oddly comforting, these strange, broken lullabies of the ludus. Still, your thoughts keep turning over the weight of that sword, the words of the doctore, and the thought of facing two trained men alone. By the time dawn slips like pale gold across the floorboards, your stomach is already tight. Breakfast is the same as always, barley mash, olives, and a ladle of thin broth, but today it tastes like fear, or maybe just poorly fermented fish. Hard to say. Rufus meets your gaze as you rise from the bench. He doesn't speak, just tilts his head toward the yard. The unspoken message, come with me. So you do, legs heavy, footsteps reluctant but steady. There's no point in running, you've already made it this far. In the center of the practice arena, two fighters wait. You know them. One is a Thracian with a permanent scowl and a bandaged hand. His name's Vibius, and he fights like a man who owes death a favor. The other is Lena, faster Cassius, a former sailor who talks too much and smiles too little. Both are good, very good. Rufus hands you a rudis and a shield. The same ones you used in drills. Familiar, but suddenly inadequate. Begin when ready, he says. No fanfare, no warm-up, just stand, silence, and two opponents closing in. You start with defense, shield raised, back hunched. They don't charge blindly, they've done this before. Cassius flanks left, Vibius edges right. They try to herd you, trap you. You pivot, turn with the movement, refusing to be cornered. Your legs burn, your shield arm trembles, but you keep moving. Vibius strikes first overhead. You block, but Cassius lunges from the side. You twist, barely dodging his blade. The crowd of trainees begins to gather along the wall, whispering. You're not winning, but you're not losing either. You remember what Rufus said. Your weapon is your habit. So you breathe, steady. You wait for rhythm. 1, 2, block, turn, swing, parry, duck. The rhythm comes in gasps and grunts, in thuds and slips. You take a hit to the ribs, not sharp, but jarring. You grit your teeth. And then something clicks. You stop retreating. You feint toward Vibius, drawing his shield high, then spin into Cassius and drive your shoulder into his gut. He stumbles. A cheer erupts. You press forward, knocking him backward. Vibius returns, slashing, but now you're ready. You sidestep, pivot, and land a strike on his thigh. Wooden blade or not, the hit makes him hiss. You've just survived the first minute. Historians still debate whether gladiators really fought multiple opponents in training. Some say it was rare. Others believe it was common, especially for those meant to entertain large crowds. Either way, it's a very effective way to discover whether you enjoy breathing. The match continues. Cassius regains his footing. Vibius snarls. They come again and again. Each round, you adapt. You don't outmatch them, but you outthink them. You become a dancer in the dust, flowing where they strike, striking where they aren't. It's not pretty, it's not heroic, but it's effective. Finally, after what feels like an hour but is probably 10 minutes, Rufus raises a hand. Enough. You stop. Cassius drops his blade with a sigh. Vibius kicks the sand, then nods at you grudgingly. You return to the edge of the arena, lungs heaving, legs shaking. The crowd disperses slowly, casting looks your way, some respectful, some skeptical, all surprised. Rufus walks beside you. He doesn't speak for a while. Then, you think you're ready? You blink. Ready for what? He shrugs. Doesn't matter. No one ever is. That night, you soak in a cold basin near the barracks. The water smells faintly of mint and old iron. An older gladiator, his name's Tiro, a veteran of the Colosseum, sits nearby, rubbing oil into his scarred knees. You did good today, he mutters without looking. You thank him. He adds, don't let it go to your head. That's how you get it cut off. Then he chuckles. The sound is dry, like a whetstone on bone. Before bed, a scribe arrives, a thin man with ink-stained fingers and a roll of parchment. He checks your name, asks your fighting class, your weight, even your hair color. For the program, he explains. You ask what program. He grins. Your debut's in 4 days. You freeze. 4 days. That night, sleep is scarce again, but this time, it's not from fear. It's from imagining the roar of the crowd, the feel of sand underfoot, the sun catching the curve of your blade as you step into history. You wake the next morning with your ribs aching and your arms buzzing with soreness. Not the sharp pain of injury, but the deep, grinding fatigue of a body, stretched to its limits and just barely holding. It's a familiar friend now, this ache. It means you're still here, still breathing, still part of the grim procession toward the arena. But today is different. Today is for healing. The doctores know that broken men don't win battles, and more importantly, they don't sell tickets. So once or twice a week, training lightens, and attention turns to the art of putting warriors back together. You and a few others are directed to the valetudinarium, the gladiator clinic. It's surprisingly quiet inside. Dim, the air is thick with the scent of crushed herbs and old sweat. Clay pots line the walls, labeled in Latin with names you can't read, but definitely don't trust. A medicus approaches, eyes tired but alert. He has hands like a sculptor, rough, methodical, and always testing for cracks. Sit, he says, and you obey. He presses along your ribcage with the practiced disinterest of a man poking a pig before market. You wince. He nods. Not broken, bruised. You'll live, unfortunately. He hands you a poultice, a mixture of honey, crushed bay leaves, and what you suspect might be mashed fig. It smells like a forest during a thunderstorm. You smear it on your side. It stings, then cools. Then, nothing. Relief. A tiny miracle. Nearby, another gladiator groans as a dislocated shoulder is popped back into place with a wet clunk. No one flinches. Pain is currency here. Some days you spend it, some days you earn it. After treatment, you're sent to the shade of the courtyard. No drills today, just slow movements, breathing, stretching. The doctors walk among you like gardeners checking saplings after a storm. Some offer advice, some remain silent. A few hand out foul-tasting tonics brewed from vinegar, celery seeds, and goat bile. For your joints, they say, you drink it anyway, because refusing is worse. Then comes massage. It's not luxurious. No soft hands and scented oils. It's closer to a tactical assault on your back muscles. A former Thracian fighter named Nico kneads your shoulders like he's tenderizing meat. You grit your teeth. He snorts. If you cry, I charge extra. You ask if he was ever in the arena. He nods. Won 9, lost the 10th. What happened? He grins. The lion had a bad attitude. Historians still debate whether gladiators received consistent medical care or if such tales are romantic exaggerations. But evidence from excavated ludi, especially in Capua and Pompeii, suggests a surprising level of physical maintenance. Not out of kindness, of course, but investment. A gladiator was too expensive to die off stage. At one point, another medic brings out something stranger, a paste made of vinegar, myrrh, and powdered mouse bones. It's used for cuts. The stench is staggering. Old Roman cure, he explains, almost proudly. Still better than leeches. You lie back on a bench under the awning, staring at the wooden beams above. A soft breeze stirs the dust. Somewhere nearby, someone is singing a low, wordless tune, probably just to pass time, or maybe to keep fear at bay. You let the sound wash over you. This pause, this moment between punishment and preparation is fleeting, you know that, but it's also precious. Later, you watch a few men practice forms with no weapons at all, just the motion of the body, flowing like wind over grass. It looks like dance, not what you expected from warriors. Rufus appears behind you. That's shadow work, he says. You fight your own ghost. It teaches you who you really are. You ask if he still does it. He hesitates. Sometimes. You press further. Do you ever miss the arena? He doesn't answer, just walks away. That night, you return to the dormitory and find a small bundle on your cot. It's a fresh tunic, a new pair of sandals, and wrapped in linen, a small tin of balm. You don't know who left it. Probably one of the trainers. Or maybe Milo, the cook with the secret stash of fig wine and unsolicited advice. You lie down, arms folded beneath your head, and stare into the darkness above. The hum of sleep creeps in slowly, gently, like a blanket being lowered over your eyes. Your body is still sore, but your mind is strangely clear. You are no longer just surviving training, you're becoming part of it. Part of this brutal, relentless, weirdly sacred machine. You've healed just enough to be broken again. Evening falls, the kind that dips the whole ludus in a soft amber glow, turning sweat into shimmer and scars into stories. Tonight, after a light round of footwork drills and a short blessing to Mars, the doctores allow something rare. Free time, no drills, no barked orders. No heavy wooden blades clacking against your shins, just quiet. You find yourself sitting on a low wall near the practice yard, elbows on your knees, watching as the sky deepens into violet. A few others gather nearby. No one speaks much, at least, not at first. The air is thick with unspoken truths. But slowly, as the light fades, so do the walls between men. Someone pulls out a tiny bone flute and plays a slow, uncertain tune. It's barely audible over the crickets, but that somehow makes it better. A man from Germania hums along, deep and low, like the wind in pine trees. Another begins telling a story half in Latin, half in his own language about the stars, about wolves, about a forest he'll never see again. You don't understand most of it, but it doesn't matter. Because tonight, under this bruised sky, no one is a slave. No one is a weapon. You're just men. Someone mentions rudis, the wooden sword granted to a gladiator who has earned his freedom. The room, if you can call it that, goes quiet. Even the flute falters. Everyone knows someone who almost made it. Everyone has a name. You ask if anyone here has actually seen someone get the rudis. One man nods. His name's Marcellus, an older fighter with a limp and eyes like smoke. Once, he says, 10 years ago, Capua, man named Drusus, fought 15 times, never lost. Crowd begged for his freedom. Did he take it? Someone asks. Marcellus nods again, walked right out of the arena, tossed his helmet in the sand, never looked back. Another man grunts, probably got stabbed in an alley by morning. Maybe, Marcellus replies, but for 1 hour, he was the freest man in Rome. You think about that, about what it would feel like to step out of this cycle of blades and shouting, to wear real clothes, to walk without hearing your name followed by, prepare yourself, to sleep without dreaming of sand and steel. Historians still debate how many gladiators were truly granted freedom, and how often. Some say it was rare and largely symbolic, meant to appease the crowd. Others believe that with enough skill, enough charisma, and enough blood spilled, a fighter could genuinely buy his way out, blade by blade. Either way, the rudis became more than a weapon. It became a symbol, a promise, whispered between aching backs and bruised ribs. As the stars begin to blink into view, someone opens a jug of watered wine, cheap, but not unpleasant. You sip. It burns slightly, but it's the warmth you need. Not the warmth of fire or sun, but the kind that reminds you you're still human, still dreaming. Nearby, 2 younger recruits argue over who's louder, Gaulish crowds or Egyptian ones. Egyptians throw sandals, one insists. Sandals. Have you ever been hit in the face with a sandal? The other shakes his head. In Gaul, they throw entire goats. You laugh. You didn't expect to. It slips out before you can stop it. A dry, surprised chuckle. A small moment, but a real one. You glance up at the balcony above the yard, where the lanista sometimes watches from behind a veil. Tonight, the space is empty. For now, no eyes are on you, no evaluations, no strategies. Just stars and tired voices. The man with the flute plays again this time, something slow and mournful. It dances on the night air like smoke from a dying torch. No one sings. No one needs to. For a fleeting breath, this doesn't feel like a place of violence. It feels like a waiting room between 2 lives, the one before the arena and the one that might come after. Someone leans over and whispers, "Do you think the gods watch us?" You shrug. "If they do, I hope they're amused." Or, "Merciful," he mutters, taking another sip of wine. The laughter fades, the fire dims. Men drift to sleep where they sit, heads resting on folded arms, blades tucked under cots like childhood toys. You lie back on the hard wooden bunk, stare up at the ceiling beams, and imagine the rudis in your hand light, smooth, and warm from the Sunday, not a tool of training, a key. Outside, the night deepens. Inside, dreams stir. Some are of home, some are of battle. A few, if you're lucky, are of nothing at all. The morning bell sounds again, early and unforgiving, and you're already awake before it even rings. You're getting used to this rhythm now, this strange blend of exhaustion and alertness that keeps you from fully resting. It's a feeling you could almost mistake for peace, but you know better. The world doesn't stop for sleep, not in the ludus, and certainly not for gladiators. You roll out of bed and immediately regret it. Your body protests, muscles tight and sore, as if someone has replaced your bones with stone. The doctores are already in the yard, pacing, preparing for the morning drills. Some trainees move sluggishly toward the practice area. You force yourself to follow, moving with purpose, even though your feet feel like they're dragging sandbags. Breakfast comes quickly. Porridge again, still tasteless, but the familiar weight of it fills your stomach. No one talks much, and no one tries to make the meal better. The food is what it is, fuel, not pleasure. You've grown accustomed to this, just as you've grown accustomed to the rhythm of the drills, the feel of the rudis in your hand, the sting of each hit you take and give. Rufus calls everyone to attention. He's always up before the sun, even if he's not a doctore, just a man who's seen too much blood to sleep past dawn. His eyes narrow as he surveys the fighters, his voice sharp and authoritative. "We're not wasting time today," he announces. "Get your weapons, you're sparring." The mood shifts. There's always a change in the air when he announces sparring. It's the part of the day when everything feels real. The moment when the wooden swords and shields transform into the things that can kill you in the arena. Everyone falls into position, grabbing their weapons and shields with hands that now know exactly how they feel: heavy, familiar, dangerous. Today, though, there's something different. You're not just sparring with a fellow trainee, you're sparring with a doctore. Not Rufus, but one of the older men. His name is Severus, and his movements are as smooth as oil. He's fought in the arena countless times, and while he's retired from the bloodshed, the violence in his movements hasn't faded. You feel the weight of his gaze as he approaches. It's not friendly, it's not mean, it's assessing. A sharp, quick calculation of your strengths and weaknesses. You take your position, shield raised, sword at the ready. Severus doesn't waste time with pleasantries. His first strike comes fast, too fast for your eyes to catch. You're barely able to deflect the blow, and the force sends you stumbling backward. You quickly reset your stance, but your heart's already racing. You're not just fighting for practice anymore. You're fighting for respect. The first round ends in a blur. Severus doesn't speak, but his eyes tell you everything. You've got potential, but you're nowhere near ready for the arena. Not yet. He calls for a break. You step back, your chest heaving, your muscles aching with every breath. The others are still going, moving in a rhythm that feels almost choreographed. You look at them, at their calm focus, and wonder how many of them will be in the arena someday. How many will survive it? "Come," Severus says, after a few moments. "Let's see how you do when you're not thinking about survival." You raise an eyebrow. Not thinking about survival? That's what you've been doing every moment since you set foot in the Ludus. You're always thinking about survival. Every move, every moment, is a step towards staying alive. But Severus just smiles, a small, knowing grin, and motions for you to follow him. You do. He leads you to a quieter part of the yard, away from the noise of the other trainees. There's a small patch of grass here, the only green you've seen in the Ludus, and the air feels slightly cooler. He hands you a different sword, one with a heavier blade, its edge sharpened. "Hold it," he says simply, his tone softer now, almost contemplative. You grasp it, and it feels oddly balanced in your hands, but not in the way you expected. It's not about technique. It's not about the strength of your grip or the precision of your strike. It's about something else, something deeper. Severus stands back, watching you. "Now," he says, his voice steady, "strike me." You hesitate. Your mind starts to race, but then you remember what he said, not about survival. You close your eyes for a moment, breathe in, breathe out. When you open your eyes again, you don't focus on the sword. You don't focus on the doctore. You focus on yourself. With a calm, deliberate motion, you swing the blade. It's a clean strike, and to your surprise, it connects with his shield. But Severus doesn't flinch. He just looks at you, a spark of something: approval, curiosity in his eyes. "Not bad," he mutters. You lower the sword, the weight of it suddenly lighter. It's not perfect, but it's better than you expected. And for a moment, you feel like you've passed some invisible test. Not because of your skill, but because you were able to fight without the desperate edge of fear. "You'll be ready," Severus says, nodding once before walking off. You stand there for a moment, the sword in your hands feeling heavier again. But not in a bad way. This weight is the weight of possibility, of a future that might be out of your control but is still yours to fight for. The bell rings, signaling the end of the day's training. You return to the dormitory with the others, a little bit lighter than you were this morning, a little more prepared for what lies ahead. But you know deep down that the real fight hasn't even started yet. The following days blur together in a haze of repetition. The drills, the mock battles, the bruises and the bruises you're yet to collect. Every morning feels like the one before it, rigid, exhausting, and strangely comforting in its predictability. Yet beneath it all, something is changing. There's a quiet shift within you, a feeling that you're beginning to slip into something else, something more than just a man in training. The other gladiators start to notice it too. The way your eyes no longer flinch when the doctor orders you into another grueling exercise. The way your shield feels less like a weight and more like an extension of your arm. There's a faint murmuring behind your back, whispers of respect and curiosity. Not bad, they say, for a novice. A novice, a newcomer, is what they call the new gladiators, the ones who haven't yet earned their stripes. It's a label, and for most, it's a mark of shame. You've heard the stories, how they call you that until you've proven yourself worthy of something else. But lately, there's a new shift in the way they look at you. You're no longer just another recruit. You're becoming someone they'll talk about, someone they'll watch in the arena one day. That day still seems far off, but it's getting closer. Your doctore has already started mentioning it in passing. You'll be ready for a real fight soon, he says casually, as if it's no big deal. You're not sure if he's trying to reassure you or simply marking the date on your fate. One evening, after another brutal round of sparring with a fellow novice, you find yourself alone by the side of the yard, staring at the fading Sunday. Your body aches, the sharp sting of muscle fatigue digging into your every movement. But there's a quiet satisfaction in it, a sense that you're getting closer to the thing you've been training for. From the corner of your eye, you notice an older gladiator, Cato, a man with scars that map 100 battles sitting against a stone pillar, polishing his shield. He's a veteran, and though he's not one to speak much, there's always a quiet aura of authority about him. He sees you, nods in acknowledgement, and motions for you to come over. You hesitate for a moment, but then your feet take you there on their own. You sit beside him, the two of you silent for a while as you both watch the last slivers of light sink below the horizon. The wind picks up slightly, carrying with it the scent of dust and far-off markets. You've been training harder than most of the others, Cato says, breaking the silence, his voice low and gruff. You shrug, though his words settle into your chest like a challenge. I'm just trying to survive. Cato chuckles, the sound rough and dry. Survival isn't enough. Not here. Survival is easy. It's living through the fight that's the real trick. You nod, not sure if you understand what he means, but something in his gaze tells you he's not talking about the physical aspect of the battle. He's talking about the mental one, the fight in your head, the part that tells you to keep going even when your body is screaming for rest. The fight you face when the noise of the arena isn't just the crowd cheering, but the thoughts that echo in your mind, pulling at you, reminding you of what's at stake. He leans forward, examining you carefully. In the arena, it's not the strong who win, it's the patient. It's the clever ones who wait for the right moment. You look at him, confused. Isn't it about power? About winning? He smiles faintly. It's about control. You don't have to be the strongest to win. You just have to make sure your opponent thinks you are. You think on this for a moment. It doesn't make sense at first, but then you realize Cato's talking about deception, about using your mind to outplay your opponent. It's not just about physical strength. It's about controlling the fight, controlling the pace, and most of all, controlling yourself. The sun has completely set now, and the yard is quiet except for the sounds of distant voices and the occasional creak of the wooden training equipment. The stars are beginning to pierce the sky above, and you find yourself staring at them, your mind wandering. You'll get your chance soon, Cato says, breaking the silence once more. They've been talking about putting you in a real match, a real fight. Your heart skips a beat, and you try to steady your breath. You've been waiting for this, but hearing it from someone else suddenly makes it feel too real. Am I ready? You ask, your voice quieter than you expect. Cato looks at you, his gaze unreadable. You'll never feel ready, not until you're in there, but that's what makes it a fight. You don't say anything, just nod, letting his words settle into you. You've been training for this moment, for this day when you would step into the arena, where survival would be the least of your worries. It would be about strategy, about control, about outlasting everything this world throws at you. As the stars twinkle overhead, you feel a small shift inside yourself. You're no longer just waiting for the fight to come, you're becoming it. And when the time comes, you'll be ready. The day arrives sooner than expected. The air feels different this morning, heavier, almost as if the earth itself is holding its breath. You wake earlier than usual, the bells ringing before the sun has even touched the horizon. You pull yourself from the cot, muscles stiff and sore from the endless days of preparation, but today is different. You don't know how you know it. Maybe it's the way the other gladiators are moving, their usual chatter replaced by tense silence. Maybe it's the way Rufus moves through the yard, sharper than usual, his eyes scanning every fighter with a hawk's precision. You try to steady your breathing, but it's hard. The air feels too thin, your heart too loud. Get your gear, Rufus says, barely looking up from the scroll in his hand. He walks past you, his voice low and direct. You're in. Your stomach drops. The words hit you like a stone. heavy and cold. In what? You ask, your voice barely above a whisper. He doesn't answer. His eyes, however, tell you everything. This is it. This is the moment you've been preparing for, the moment you've feared. You don't get a chance to think about it. No time for doubt. You rush to your gear, quickly pulling on the leather armor and adjusting your shield. The rudest, the wooden sword feels heavier than it did yesterday. The weight of it doesn't feel like practice anymore. It feels like destiny. The rest of the fighters prepare in silence, each of them in their own way, some checking their weapons, some muttering to themselves, others standing with their backs straight, eyes narrowed. You glance around. There's no camaraderie today, only a sense of inevitability. The gladiators don't speak to you now. They know you're not one of them yet. You're still an outsider. But that will change in the next few minutes. Rufus calls out, his voice cutting through the tension in the yard. Form up. We're heading to the gates. The walk to the arena is longer than you remember, the space between you and the others stretching with each step. The walls of the ludus feel thicker today, the air thicker too. You step through the narrow passageway leading out, and the faint sound of the crowd reaches you, distant but unmistakable, a low rumble of voices. It's not loud yet. The real noise comes later, when the gates open, when they see you, when they cheer. You step into the sunlight, the gleaming stones of the Colosseum rising before you like the jaws of some ancient beast. The crowd's roar grows louder as you draw closer. Your heart is pounding in your chest, every beat seeming to echo through your body. You glance over at your opponent, another novice, his face tight with fear, eyes wide as he takes in the grand arena. He's barely older than you, but there's something in his stance that tells you he's been here before. This isn't his first fight, but it is yours. You step through the gates, the crowd erupts. It's almost too much to take in the noise, the movement, the swarms of people above you, staring down with hunger in their eyes. It's overwhelming. The sight of the stands, packed with spectators, every face a blur of excitement. Their voices are a cacophony, but they all blur together into a single thought: kill or be killed. The lanista, the owner of the ludus, stands nearby, his gaze cool and calculating as he surveys the crowd. He's the one who's been betting on your life, gambling on your future like a prize horse. He's the one who decides who lives and who dies. But right now, you aren't worried about him. Right now, it's just you, the sand, and the roaring crowd. The signal is given. The fight begins. You're still standing there, frozen for a moment, but you can feel it building, the urge to move, to strike, to survive. Your opponent raises his shield and moves toward you. You do the same, raising yours in a defensive stance. Your heart is thundering in your chest, each beat a reminder of what you're about to do. He strikes first, a sweeping blow that you barely manage to deflect. The force of it pushes you back, but you recover quickly, shifting your weight and thrusting with the rudis. He parries, his shield clanging against yours. The sound is sharp, ringing in your ears. For a moment, everything falls away. The crowd, the noise, the weight of the day. It's just you and him. Every move feels calculated. Every action is deliberate. You know you have only seconds to act before he strikes again. You feint to the left, drawing his shield in that direction. He shifts, and you take your opening, stepping to the right and landing a hit on his side. The crowd roars, and the adrenaline surges. It's working. You're doing it. But then he's back quicker than you expect, and suddenly his sword is aimed at your chest. You barely manage to parry in time, the blow pushing you back, your foot slipping on the sand. For a brief second, you're vulnerable. This is the moment. You know it. The crowd knows it. The next move could mean the difference between life and death. You take a breath, focus, and wait for the right moment. Everything slows down for a split second. You feel the grip of your sword in your hand, steady and sure. The rudis is heavier now, not just from the sweat and the weight of the crowd's eyes. It feels heavier because it's no longer just a piece of wood, it's your survival. The shield presses against your arm, digging into your skin, but you don't mind. It's a part of you now. Your opponent steps forward again, his sword raised, his eyes wide, frantic, and calculating, reflect the same thing you feel in the pit of your stomach: uncertainty, fear, but also determination. He doesn't want to die today. Not today. He swings, and the blow comes in hard, too quick to dodge. You barely catch it with your shield, the impact jarring through your arm, but you hold firm. You step back, Just enough to regain your footing, but you know he's watching, waiting for your next move. You wait. You wait for him to overcommit, for his next attack to leave him open. His breath comes fast, too fast. He's pushing harder now, driven by desperation. You can see it in the way his shield wavers just slightly. He's burning through his energy. He swings again, a high arc meant to break your guard. But this time, you're ready. You duck low, dropping to one knee just as the sword swipes overhead, missing by inches. The crowd gasps, the collective breath of the spectators held tight, waiting for something spectacular to happen. And then you strike. You rise up, your sword moving in a swift arc as you thrust it forward. The tip of the rudis catches his shoulder, a solid hit. It's not a killing blow, not by any means, but it's enough to throw him off balance. His feet slide in the sand as he stumbles backward, his shield dropping low, leaving him open. You don't hesitate. You rush forward, using your shield to push him off balance completely. He crashes to the ground, his back hitting the sand with a thud. The crowd erupts, but you don't hear them. Not really. It's as if the noise of the arena has dulled in the wake of your focus. Your breath is heavy, your chest heaving, but the moment you've been waiting for has come. You stand over him, sword raised. He looks up at you, his face a mix of pain, surprise, and resignation. For a brief moment, time feels stretched out, like a drawn bowstring. You know what happens next. You know what the crowd expects. You look up at the stands, the sea of faces, some filled with excitement, others filled with boredom. They're waiting for you to make the choice. For the thumbs up or the thumbs down. For the death or the mercy. It's all in your hands. The decision is a strange one. It should be simple. This is the arena. After all, a gladiator's life is measured in moments like this. But as you stand there, sword in hand, you realize that this is not just about survival. It's about becoming something else, something more. Something that's both more powerful and more fragile than you ever expected. Your lanista, the one who owns you, controls you, profits from you, stands at the edge of the arena, his eyes never leaving you. He doesn't shout, doesn't move. He's waiting for you to make the decision. His face is unreadable. And then something happens. Your sword lowers, slowly. The crowd gasps. There's a moment of shock, an electric pause where the tension between life and death seems to hover in the air. You look down at your opponent, the man you've just bested. He's still on the ground, gasping for air, his body sprawled out like a broken puppet. But you see it now. The fear in his eyes isn't just for himself. It's for everyone. It's a reflection of what you've felt since the day you stepped into this hellish world. The fear of losing everything. Of being erased from history with no more than a thumbs down. You nod to him just once, a small gesture. He nods back, a weary acceptance of what has just passed between you. The Doctore gives you a hard look. He doesn't approve. He won't say it out loud, but it's clear enough. But then, from the back of the arena, you hear the unmistakable sound of applause. It's not the entire crowd, but a few of the more perceptive spectators, those who understand the art of combat, those who know the value of mercy. You step back, still holding your sword, the weight of the decision not quite settled. You're not a killer, not today. But the next fight might be different. Your opponent gets to his feet slowly, the blood rushing back to his face. He's not smiling, but there's a glint of something in his eyes. Respect, gratitude, or maybe it's just relief. The lanista is already making his way toward you, his hand outstretched. His voice is low, but it carries. Good show, but remember this, mercy doesn't always win in this business. You nod. You've learned that lesson already. But tonight, you get to walk back to the ludus, a little bit taller, a little bit more human. And for now, that's enough. The night after your first fight is a strange kind of exhaustion, one that creeps in slowly, filling your body with a tiredness that seeps into your bones. You lie on your cot, staring at the wooden beams above, your muscles humming in protest. Every bruise, every cut, every inch of soreness is a reminder of what you've just done. And yet, there's a strange comfort in it. You're alive, you're still here, and for tonight, that's enough. The ludus is quieter than usual. It always is after a fight. The energy shifts, leaving behind the quiet hum of men trying to find their place again after a taste of the arena. Some are already asleep, the rhythmic sounds of their breathing filling the room. Others, like you, lie awake, processing what just happened. You can still hear the crowd in your ears, their voices, their screams, their hunger. It's not a feeling that fades quickly. It stays with you, lingering like smoke. You can almost taste the dust in the air, the burn of your throat from shouting, from fighting, from living. Tomorrow they'll have you spar again, drilling the moves until they're as natural as breathing. But tonight, all you can do is reflect, think, wonder. You roll over, closing your eyes, but sleep doesn't come easily. The tension, the adrenaline, and the lingering feeling of the arena, the weight of what you've done, is still there, buzzing in the back of your mind. But eventually, the hum of the ludus and the soft breathing of the other gladiators pull you under, and sleep takes over. The next morning, you wake to the sound of the bell again, ringing out over the courtyard like a death knell. You drag yourself out of bed, muscles stiff from yesterday's fight. The sun hasn't fully risen yet, but the day waits for no one. Not here, not in this place. Breakfast is the same as always. Barley porridge, olives and water. The food is familiar, predictable, and, for that reason, comforting. There's no time to savor it. No time for anything except preparation. Rufus gathers the fighters once again, his eyes scanning each of you, noting your movements, the way you carry yourself after the fight. He doesn't speak to you directly, but you can feel his gaze. You can feel his judgment. He's already sizing you up for the next match, the next fight, the next moment that will define whether you live or die in the arena. Today's training is different. There are no mock battles, no drills. Instead, you're led through a series of endurance exercises, running with weights, leaping over obstacles, and holding your shield above your head for as long as you can. It's grueling. It's designed to break you down until there's nothing left but muscle and willpower. You're not training to be a warrior today. You're training to be a machine, a weapon that doesn't tire, that doesn't feel. You can see it in the eyes of the other men. They're all thinking the same thing. How much longer can I keep going? The answer is simple: as long as you can. The day passes in a blur of sweat and grit. It's only when the bell rings again to signal the end of training that you realize how much time has passed. Your body is sore, but it's different now. The pain is familiar, part of the routine. You've survived another day, you've earned another breath. And tomorrow? Tomorrow, you'll do it all over again. The doctores release you for the evening, allowing you a few hours of rest. The lanista says nothing to you directly, but you know he's watching. The deal is simple: you fight, you survive. And if you do both well enough, maybe you'll get to taste freedom. But freedom feels like a distant dream. The weight of the ludus is always around you, a constant reminder that every step you take is one closer to the arena. You don't know when that moment will come, but you know it's waiting for you. The crowd, the sand, the roar. That night, as you lie on your cot, staring up at the familiar beams above, a strange sense of peace settles over you. The tension from the fight has faded into a quiet hum, and for the first time in what feels like forever, you're not just surviving, you're starting to understand what it means to fight. To truly fight, not just for your life, but for your place in this brutal world. And maybe, just maybe, you'll survive long enough to see what lies beyond the walls of the ludus. The next few days are a whirlwind of preparation and anticipation. You don't have time to rest, not really. The doctores push you harder now, sharpening your body and mind for what's to come. Every step feels heavier, but it's no longer a burden, it's the price of survival. Each bruise, each cut, is a reminder that you're still here, still breathing, still fighting. The lanista has begun to speak more frequently of the upcoming games. It's not just idle chatter anymore. There's a tension in the air, a quiet urgency. He watches you closely, as if weighing your worth, as if calculating your value in the arena. You've learned not to question him. He controls your fate here. What he says goes. Rufus, too, is more focused than ever. He's been giving you special attention, fine-tuning your form, pushing you to the limits of your endurance. The other gladiators notice, their eyes flicking over you with a mix of envy and suspicion. But you're not worried about them anymore. You've learned that the arena doesn't care about your past. It only cares about what you can do in the moment. Training becomes more intense. The mock battles grow fiercer. The doctores start introducing more realistic scenarios, fighting against multiple opponents, defending against surprise attacks, and learning to fight through exhaustion. Each exercise pushes you harder, further. The pain becomes familiar, and you learn to accept it, to move through it. Pain is just another opponent to face. You start to see the others in a new light, too. The veterans, the men who have been here for years. You realize they're not invincible. They're not untouchable. They, too, have bled. They've been broken, but they've survived. And that's what matters in this world, survival. One evening, after a particularly brutal session, you find yourself alone in the courtyard, wiping the sweat from your brow. The air is thick with the smell of sand and sweat, but there's a stillness to it too. It's almost peaceful. For a moment, you let yourself relax. You let the exhaustion take over. Feel the weight of your body pressing into the stone beneath you. You're not the same man who arrived at the Ludus weeks ago. You've changed. The fear, the uncertainty, they're still there, but they don't control you anymore. You've learned to embrace them, to use them to your advantage. You're no longer just a gladiator. You're a fighter, a survivor. And that means something here. As the sun sets, you hear the distant sounds of the doctores barking orders and the faint chatter of the other gladiators. The lanista has already begun to make his rounds, checking on everyone's progress, making sure everyone is ready for the big day. You glance at the gates, wondering when your time will come. But there's no answer. Not yet. Tomorrow, the training will continue. The drills, the sparring, the endless repetitions. But for tonight, there's a quiet peace that settles over you. The knowledge that you're no longer just a part of the Ludus, you've become it. And that means you're ready. When the call comes, you'll be ready. You close your eyes, letting the sound of the distant training blend into the rhythm of your breath. The crowd's roar echoes in the back of your mind, and you imagine yourself standing in the arena, facing your opponent, your shield raised high. You're ready for the challenge, ready for the fight. And when the time comes, you'll step into the sand and give everything you have. Because this is the moment you've been preparing for. This is your time. The day finally arrives. You wake before the bell even rings, eyes snapping open as though some invisible force is calling you from the depths of sleep. The familiar noise of the Ludus stirs around you, the rustle of feet shuffling across the stone floors, the quiet murmur of voices speaking in urgent whispers. It's different today. The air feels heavier. The smell of dust, sweat, and leather is more pronounced. There's a tension here, a sense of anticipation that's impossible to ignore. The other gladiators move with purpose now, their eyes sharp, their movements quick. They've been through this before, but for you it's your first time. The Lanista's orders come quick and clipped. Suit up, move quickly. You're on in an hour. You barely hear the words. The weight of the rudis in your hand suddenly feels real, no longer just a piece of wood or a training tool. It's a weapon. It's your lifeline. You take a deep breath, trying to calm the storm brewing inside your chest, but it's no use. Your heart beats faster than ever, your stomach tight with nerves. It's time. As you pull on your armor, the pieces click together with the sound of metal and leather, the familiar weight settling on your shoulders. The shield feels heavier now, the straps digging into your arm. You feel the tension in every muscle, every bone, but it's a different kind of tension now. Not the fear of the unknown, but the preparation for what's coming. You step into the courtyard, and the sight of the other gladiators, already in their fighting gear, snaps you back to the present. Some are focused, others are joking, but everyone is ready. You meet their eyes, some nodding at you, others ignoring you altogether. It doesn't matter. You're no longer just a novice. You're part of the Ludus now, part of the fight. The doctores are already moving through the crowd, checking weapons, adjusting armor. One stops in front of you. You ready? He asks, his voice low and steady. You nod. You are ready, or at least you will be. The gates open with a groan, and you step into the sunlight, the world shifting around you as you move toward the arena. The roar of the crowd hits you before anything else, a tidal wave of noise that crashes into your chest, rattling your bones. The stands stretch far above you, a sea of faces eager, bloodthirsty, waiting. The sand beneath your feet feels hot, almost alive with the weight of history. You wonder, briefly, if any of these people care about the men who fight for their entertainment or if they're just here to see blood. You glance to your side. There's another gladiator standing beside you. He's taller, stronger, with a look of grim determination on his face. He's been here before. He knows what to expect. You, however, are still unsure of yourself. Your mind races with 1,000 thoughts. What if you're not good enough? What if you freeze? What if you... But then the gate to the arena opens fully. The crowd's roar rises to a fever pitch. and all of your thoughts fade. There's only the fight. There's only the arena. You step forward. The sand is hot beneath your feet, the ground solid, unforgiving. Your opponent stands a few paces away, his eyes locked on yours. He's not a novice, he's a veteran. You've seen him in training, quick, precise, and brutal. The Lanista promised a tough match, and here he is, ready to show you exactly what that means. The horn sounds. It's time. Your opponent charges. The noise of the crowd dims, replaced by the roar of your own heartbeat in your ears. You raise your shield, just in time to deflect his blow, the rudest coming down with a sharp crack against your defense. You parry, twist, and step aside, your body moving on instinct, muscles honed from weeks of training. But he's faster, stronger. He presses forward, forcing you back with a series of rapid strikes. The rudest feels heavier with each blow, but you hold your ground. His shield slams into yours with a deafening thud, the impact reverberating through your body. You stagger, but you don't fall. You won't fall. You see an opening, a slight shift in his stance, a momentary lapse in his defense. You strike, the tip of your sword grazing his side. He grunts, but doesn't flinch. Instead, he retaliates, his sword sweeping low to catch your legs. You leap back, narrowly avoiding the strike. The sand shifts beneath your feet, sending a small cloud into the air. The crowd is roaring, their voices rising in a wave of excitement, but you barely hear them now. Your focus is razor sharp, honed by the hours of training and the fear that's now a part of you. Another strike comes, this time from above. You raise your shield in time to block it, the force of the blow sending a jolt through your body. You grunt, but you don't give ground. This is it. This is your moment. You press forward, countering his attacks with a flurry of your own. Your movements feel like they're in sync with the rhythm of the fight. He's getting tired. You can see it in his eyes. His attacks are becoming sloppier, less controlled. You know you've only got a few more moments before you can make your move. And then, in the blink of an eye, it happens. He overextends himself, leaving his chest open. You take the opportunity. You strike, your sword driving into his side with perfect precision. He stumbles back, his breath coming in sharp gasps. His shield drops, his sword clatters to the sand. The crowd erupts, their roar filling your ears. You stand there, panting, sweat dripping down your face, watching as your opponent struggles to rise. The fight isn't over, but the battle for this moment is won. The doctores step forward, signaling the end of the fight. The veteran gladiator stumbles to his feet, offering you a nod of respect, though his face is hard with frustration. You return the gesture, your chest still heaving. You've survived, you've won, but you know the real test has only just begun. The roar of the crowd echoes in your head as you stand there, trying to steady your breath. It's deafening. For a moment, it feels like your ears are ringing, drowning out everything but the pulse of your heart and the beating of the sun on your back. The adrenaline is still coursing through your veins, and you can't quite believe what just happened. You defeated him. You're still standing. You're still breathing. But the victory is hollow. The crowd's cheers blur into the noise of the arena, and you realize that this fight, this first taste of the arena, is nothing but the beginning. The doctores step forward, their eyes scanning you as they make their way to the fallen gladiator. The veteran, wounded but not broken, is helped to his feet. There's a flicker of respect in his eyes, but it's fleeting, replaced by something darker. He nods, but he doesn't speak. His pride is still intact, but just barely. He knows what it feels like to be humbled by a novice. It's something no gladiator wants to experience, especially not in front of a crowd. You watch as the doctores begin to assess his injuries. The fight is over, but your fight is far from finished. A hand rests on your shoulder, and you turn to see Severus standing beside you. His eyes are steady, unreadable, as always. "You did well," he says, his voice low, "but don't get comfortable. The crowd loves you now, but they'll turn on you just as fast if you show weakness." You nod, understanding the weight of his words. The arena is fickle. Today's hero is tomorrow's fallen fighter. Now get cleaned up. You've got more matches ahead. And with that he turns, disappearing into the shadows as quickly as he appeared. His words hang in the air like a heavy weight, pressing down on your chest. You're not free. Not yet. You've won a battle, but the war is far from over. Later that evening, after the noise of the arena fades and the Colosseum empties, you find yourself alone in the courtyard again. The sand beneath your feet feels warmer now, the glow of the setting sun casting long shadows across the yard. The other gladiators have long since retreated to their quarters, some limping, some chatting in low voices, but you remain outside, your mind still buzzing with the aftermath of the fight. The lanista has already come and gone, his presence a fleeting shadow in the distance. He made sure to give you a nod of approval after the fight, but that was all. His eyes were cold. He is already thinking of the next match. You can feel it in the way he looks at you, like you're just another commodity, another asset to be used until it's no longer profitable. The world of the arena is unforgiving, and you're just a small piece in a much larger game, but right now you're still alive, and that's something, isn't it? You walk toward the corner of the yard, where a few other fighters are gathered around, talking in hushed voices. They glance up as you approach, and you notice a subtle shift in their demeanor. They've been watching, they saw your fight, and for a brief moment you feel a strange sense of camaraderie. They might not be your friends, but they understand. They've been where you are. They know the weight of what it means to stand in the arena, to face death and come out on the other side. A man from Gaul, whose name you've yet to learn, looks up at you, his gaze appraising. He gives you a small, respectful nod. It's a simple gesture, but in this world it means more than words ever could. You did well today, he says, his accent thick, but his words clear. Not many survive their first match. You nod in return, unsure of how to respond. I'm just lucky, you murmur, more to yourself than to him. He grins, though it's a tight, weary smile. Luck doesn't win matches, skill does. Keep that in mind. As the evening wears on, the coolness of the night begins to settle in. The sound of distant voices fades into the background, and the yard grows quieter, emptier. You stand there for a while longer, staring out into the vastness of the Colosseum, the memory of the fight still fresh in your mind. You wonder what tomorrow will bring. Will it be another mock battle, another sparring session? Or will it be the real thing again, the sand and the roar of the crowd filling your ears as you face another opponent, another fight for your life? You don't know, but you know one thing for certain. You're ready for it, ready to face whatever comes next. And as you make your way back to your quarters, your body heavy with the weight of the day's events, you finally feel the exhaustion creep in. The fight, the noise, the crowd, they fade away, replaced by the steady rhythm of your breath, the steady rhythm of survival. For now, that's enough.